So I decided to do a live because when I got home, I took a little power nap. Turns out the power nap was like 5 hours, but nevertheless, I wanted to talk about the passing of Carl Weathers. I feel like these type of passings or situations they deserve like a live stream because I truly want to come from the heart and come from the head because you know I feel Carl Weathers deserved that. You know, if you look at Carl Weathers, resume as far as TV and film went, he did much more than Rocky, but it's always sometimes a certain role a person will always be synonymous with or always tied to, and that's Apollo Creed. And then just to think that the Apollo Creed Rocky series carried on pretty much almost 50 years from different generations, from father to son to son to son. So basically from grandfather to son to his son's son. You know, keep in mind the original Rocky was made almost 50 years ago, 1976. And it's always going to be synonymous with boxing and boxing culture. And I think it helped like make people um, continue to pay attention to the sport of boxing. You can't think of boxing without Rocky, and you can't think of Rocky without boxing. So, at the end of the day, it did its part. But just growing up, watching the Rocky films. Now, keep in mind, I didn't see the original Rocky till probably like 1980, 81 ish, because I was around 2 years old when the first Rocky came out, like in 1976. I was born in 74. So Rocky came out in 76. I was either one going on two or, two. So, but I got to see it, and then I got to see the first one because keep in mind, you know, that, if you didn't have cable TV, they would show the movie on regular TV. Like after maybe 3 years, 2.5 years, they would show it on regular TV, and CBS used to show Rocky all the time. So, you know, that's how I got a chance to see it and like the movie. Now, the Apollo Creed character, don't get it misconstrued, because people sometimes consider Apollo Creed like a cinematic villain, and that's absolutely false. Apollo Creed, in no way, shape, or form, was a cinematic villain, because at the end of the day, he gave Rocky a shot at the title, and then he wasn't convinced that he beat him convincingly, and he gave him a rematch. He ended up losing. But then when Rocky, fell back and suffered uh, a shocking loss to Clubber Lane, well, he basically had to train Rocky to fight Clubber Lane how he would have fought him. Basically was saying, I'm gonna train you for this particular fight to fight in a black style, quote unquote. They really didn't want to say that, but that's pretty much what was the premise of Rocky 3. And you think of that moment where Apollo Creed is training Rocky Balboa, and it was to the point he was almost ready to give up on him, but he stuck by him. He trained him. He ended up defeating Clubber Lane and regaining the title and all that kind of stuff. And then, um, unfortunately, when Rocky 4 came, they decided to kill off the character. It was sad how right it was sad how they killed the character off. You know, some people thought that maybe they could have just made him retire or something like that, but that had to set up the plot for part four. Basically, it was revenge for him. Basically, Ivan Drago doing what he did to Apollo Creed. Even his final fight was, you know what I'm saying? Even the final fight was climactic, but in the trailer they already had let you know what was gonna happen, but it was still dramatic, and it was disappointing. And then but Stallone went on to pay homage to him, towards the end of the film, and then they continued the Rocky series without him, and then they branched off into Creed, which continued the Creed name, the legacy of Creed. Now I have to say this, and I'm gonna keep it a buck about Creed. What I didn't like, the one thing that I think to me turned me off a little bit about the Creed franchise, even though I like the films. I think out of all the Creed films that was made, I think I like the first one the best, then the third one, and then the second one. But in case you guys don't know, when they were planning to make the Creed franchise, branch off to the Creed franchise, originally they was gonna have Michael B. Jordan play Apollo Creed's grandson. That would have made more sense because it's a question of how old Michael B. Jordan's character is. Now keep in mind Apollo Creed. Now keep in mind Apollo Creed, his character died in 1985. So technically the Adonis character would be almost 40. But in the movies, he's supposed to be like maybe in his early 30s or something like that. And then based off the fact that he was, basically he was an offspring. And I think that's kind of like what turned me off a little bit because, keep in mind the image of Apollo Creed, he was this guy that was married. He was married, had the family and all that kind of stuff. And then they wrote into the storyline that, he basically had an extramarital affair. And then, that's how Adonis Creed came about. And then, they made his mother out to be like some kind of junkie, and he ended up in foster homes and all that kind of stuff. Now that's what I didn't like. Now I don't know whose idea it was to change it into that. I don't know if it was Stallone himself or was it, um, Ryan Coogler or at the time, MGM before they were bought out by Amazon. So that's some image of Apollo Creed being this stand-up married man with family, with a wife and children, and just to do that to his character, kind of make him, that kind of hurt the image of his character. And then I know they tried to have segments where they was talking about, Adonis Creed saying, well, we shouldn't knock Apollo Creed's for what he did. He made him say, and I was like, damn, they shouldn't have even put that in there. So I have to admit, I'm one of the very few people that will come out and say I didn't like that they had to write into, basically to where they kind of hurt his wholesome character. And like I said, he wasn't a villain because he gave Rocky a rematch, and he didn't have to after he won the first match. He didn't think it was satisfactory enough for him, so he did it again. He ended up losing. But then Rocky, at the end of the third film, basically decided to give him a third fight. No cameras, no nothing, just them in the gym going, just going at it. And then in the first Creed, they brought that up. Michael B. Jordan's character said, I heard you guys had like 3 fights, 2 in the ring and 1, in a private setting. And who won? And then Stallone's character said he did. So, I just wanted to say that. Now, like I said, Carl Malone, I mean, excuse me, not Carl Malone, excuse me, Carl Weathers went on to do other things, though. He went on to do other things. He went on to do, um, I guess you could say, another iconic character. Well, not movie, but character, the Predator. He was in the first Predator. You know, they did his character dirty. Man got his arm shot off, and then they did his character dirty in that first Predator movie. I mean, but it was Arnold Schwarzenegger's film, but we get it. And Carl Weathers was in other stuff too. He was in Happy Gilmore. He had a short-lived series. What was that series he had that came on ABC? Um, it took place in Oakland. It was called, I forgot what it was called. I think it was called Fortune Dane or something. But he had a television series, which, by the way, his television series was hot too, because he played like if I'm not mistaken, he played an Oakland detective, and it ran. And they used to actually shoot that movie in Oakland too, or shoot the TV series in Oakland. So Carl Weathers did a lot of stuff. So he did a lot of stuff, but he gonna always be synonymous with the Rocky franchise. But it was just amazing growing up, seeing that on TV. Because I never saw any of the Rocky films at the theater. I would wait for them to come on HBO and watch them on HBO, but just to watch those movies. And then the funny thing is, I already know these are films and stuff, and you know that there's a script and everything, but I still would be rooting for Apollo Creed to beat Rocky, and you know why. I shouldn't have to say why, but um, we get it. We get it that the Rocky character was based off Muhammad Ali and Chuck Webner, which it was it inspired Sylvester Stallone to write the script to the first Rocky, but that's what it's loosely based off of. And it was funny that I had conversations with the Ali. I had conversations with the Ali family. I had conversations with the Ali family about, the Rocky franchise and how much money it generated, because it's $1 billion franchise. And it's kind of funny. Um, we spoke about it, about residuals and that kind of stuff, and it was funny. I ain't gonna tell you what was said, but I had some conversations with Ali's kids about the Rocky franchise, and I talked to Nico Ali Walsh about it and stuff. But it's just amazing that just watching those films from the 70s, transition over to the 80s, to the 90s, to the 2000s, to the 10s, to the 2020s, and just seeing people grow up being aware of the Rocky films. It's kind of cool when somebody like 25, 30 know about Rocky 3 and some of the quotes from Mr. T's Clubber Lang, pain, or Ivan Drago, you know I must break you, or of course, if he dies, he dies. So, but like I said before, for the most part, I did like how the Apollo Creed character represented his community. And keep in mind, something that was very special about Rocky 3. Like I said, the origin of Rocky 3, they didn't want to flat out say, to beat Clubber Lang, I have to teach you to fight like a black fighter. But you can understand the premise of it in the innuendos. Cause keep in mind, Apollo Creed took Rocky to a gym like in Compton, California. And what's so funny about it, my stepfather's cousins are in that film, because they really did shoot that scene like in Compton or LA and stuff. So they was like in the film and stuff. So, you know, that's why I think out of all the Rocky movies, probably in order, um, I think my favorite Rocky movie is probably Rocky 3. then Rocky 1, then 2, then probably 4. Now I know that they made additional Rocky films, but I'm talking about the first 4, I think, because I really think they could have ended the Rocky series with 5. I think it was no reason to continue. But at the end of the day, if they wouldn't have continued the Rocky series, then you wouldn't have got Creed. So there you have it. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. I just wanted to give my take on the whole Rocky franchise and Carl Weathers and what he meant to us. You know. So there you have it. It's your boy Town. I'm out.